This is the Oki Doke, Season 1, Episode 5.
Oh, here we go.
April 30th, 2018. J.T. Jackson walked into the DA's office to pick up his property. A recording was running. He was arrested based on a document the investigator called the El Jefe email. That document vanished from the official record 2 days later. Years later, it resurfaced.
Right. And, today we are taking a deep dive into what was actually inside it.
Yeah, we really are.
Mm-hmm.
Because to understand this case, you have to look at the mechanics of it.
Exactly. I mean, we're going to drop you straight into a room right now. Or, well, straight onto a phone line, to be more precise.
Because that's where the floor just drops out.
Oh, it completely drops out. Because if you want to understand what happened to J.T. Jackson, you kind of have to see exactly how the system basically manufactures its own reality.
Yeah.
So I want you to picture the scene, because in this case, the scene is absolutely everything. The date is May 22nd, 2019.
And just to set the stage for you listening, this is a recorded line.
A fully recorded conference call.
Right.
And the cast of characters that are gathered on this line, it's just critical to understand the sheer gravity of what's about to happen here.
It's heavy hitters.
It really is. So you have Kevin Hart on the line. You have his two attorneys, Blair Burke and Andrew Brettler.
Which, obviously, very expensive legal team.
Oh, incredibly. And then, representing the state, you have the prosecuting attorney, Michael Fern, and you have the investigator, Robin Letourneau.
So just, pause and look at the power dynamics in that virtual room for a second.
It's intense.
It's wild. On one side, you have this mega celebrity and his high-powered defense team.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you've got the heavy machinery of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office.
Right, the prosecutor and the lead investigator.
Exactly. And everyone has cleared their schedule for this. Everyone is gathered on this call with one singular, explicitly defined purpose.
They are there to authenticate a document. And not just some random piece of paper, right? They are there to officially validate a document being presented as the El Jefe email.
Right, which, for anyone keeping the timeline in their head, this is the anonymous demand for 20 Bitcoin.
The exact one.
The one that investigator Robin Letourneau stated was the very cause of J.T. Jackson's arrest.
Over a year prior to this call, back on April 30th, 2018.
Right, so that's the stakes here. The prosecution desperately needs to confirm this document is real. That's the whole point of this gathering of, very powerful, very busy people.
They need their star witness to look at this thing and say, yes, this is exactly what it claims to be.
So they're asking Hart about this specific document on the call.
They are.
And I just want you to listen to the exact answer he gives them on this recorded line, because the rhythm of it is it's something else.
He says factual information.
Factual information.
I really want you to hold that phrase in your mind.
It's so weirdly specific.
It is. Just let it ring in your ears for a second, because that phrase is the anchor point for, everything we're about to get into today.
Because the central question of this entire deep dive, the question that completely shatters the narrative.
Oh, it ruins it.
It turns a routine authentication call into a literal thriller. The question is this: what does the document itself say about when it was created?
That is the whole episode right there.
But before we get to the document, we kind of have to slow down.
Yeah, we have to walk through this May 22nd, 2019 exchange exactly as it happened.
Because the mechanics of this conversation are staggering.
It's like a masterclass in how a narrative is built piece by piece in real time.
Literally in real time.
Yeah.
So the prosecuting attorney, Michael Fern, he takes the lead, right?
Right. He has to establish the chain of custody. He has to prove that this piece of evidence went from point A to point B to point C without being, tampered with.
Right, the legal basics.
So he asks Hart a very direct question. He asks if that email was something Hart prepared for them, printed out, and provided.
Which, from a prosecutorial standpoint, makes total sense to ask it exactly like that.
Oh, yeah. He's just looking for a simple yes or no regarding the physical creation of the document they're holding.
Like, did you, Kevin Hart, hit print on a machine and hand this physical piece of paper to us?
Exactly. But the answer he gets creates an immediate roadblock.
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
Hart gives this very natural, very immediate logistical response.
He says, no, I do not own a printer on the road.
Which is, frankly, the most honest thing he could say.
Right. I mean, think about his life. He's a touring comedian.
A massive movie star.
He's constantly living out of hotels and tour buses. He doesn't have, a home office setup traveling with him?
Yeah, he's just stating a simple logistical reality. He didn't print it because he physically lacks the machinery to print it while he's traveling.
But if I'm the prosecutor on that call,
Oh man,
my heart just skipped a beat.
because that answer is a massive problem for the narrative.
It's a huge gap. If Hart didn't print it, how did it physically get to the lawyers?
Right. How did he get to the DA's office?
You suddenly have this massive hole in your chain of custody.
You have a document that literally no one is claiming they brought into the physical world.
And look, nature abhors a vacuum.
But not nearly as much as a defense attorney abhors a gap in the chain of custody.
Exactly. That gap cannot be allowed to exist.
And that is exactly when the intervention happened.
Blair Burke, his attorney, she steps right in.
She doesn't even wait for him to elaborate.
No, she doesn't let the silence linger on the recording at all. She coaches him in real time, right there on the open line with the prosecutor listening.
She says, I think you forwarded it, Kevin. You forwarded it.
Which is where the psychology of this call gets absolutely fascinating.
You were listening to a memory being formed.
Actively sculpted, right there on the open line.
Notice her phrasing, too. She doesn't ask him a question.
No, she doesn't say, hey, Kevin, do you remember if maybe you forwarded it?
She tells him what his reality is. She says, I think you forwarded it, Kevin. You forwarded it.
She literally hands him the exact verb he needs to solve the prosecutor's problem.
But she provides the escape hatch.
She does. And then you have to look at the pivot.
The pivot is breathtaking.
The speed of it. Hart's immediate, enthusiastic change in tone is the pivot point of the entire case.
The moment she gives him the word forwarded, all that confusion about the printer logistics, it just evaporates entirely.
Gone. He immediately jumps in and says, oh, forwarded. Yeah, there you go. Now you are talking my language. Yes, there you go. Forwarded.
Now you are talking my language.
I mean, can you believe that?
I cannot believe the sheer audacity of this exchange happening on a recorded line with law enforcement.
It's wild. He is functionally admitting that he didn't know what his own story was supposed to be until his lawyer gave him the vocabulary for it.
Right. He didn't remember how this vital case-making document existed in the world until his attorney handed him the exact verb needed to just make the whole issue disappear.
It is the unmistakable sound of a man finding his script.
Yeah. He was lost on the stage for a second when faced with the whole printer thing.
And his attorney just fed him the line from the wings.
And he picked it up with absolute enthusiasm because it solved the immediate tension in the room.
And what does the prosecutor do in this moment? Does Michael Fern stop and say, hold on a second, why did your lawyer just have to tell you what you did?
Of course not.
No.
He just accepts the newly provided verb.
Fern walks him through this newly established reality. Hart confirms it. He locks it in.
And then, to really seal the deal, to put a bow on this newly birthed memory,
Here it comes.
Hart delivers the line. Yes, that is factual information.
He doesn't just agree that it's possible.
Yeah.
He emphatically declares it to be an objective truth. He uses the word factual 3 times in a row.
Which, I mean, when someone repeats a word like that, factual, it feels like massive overcompensation.
Yeah, it feels like he's trying to convince himself as much as he's trying to convince the prosecutor.
But regardless of the psychology behind the repetition, the legal reality is now set in stone.
On May 22nd, 2019, Kevin Hart authenticated the document as a real email that he received and subsequently forwarded.
That is the human testimony. And we've spent time on this because you really need to understand how human beings in a high-pressure room construct the reality of a document.
But human memory, as we just saw, is incredibly pliable.
Very suggestible.
It can be coached by a lawyer. You can be handed a verb and suddenly remember a whole new sequence of events that magically fixes a legal problem.
Humans will bend to the narrative.
They absolutely will.
But digital files do not listen to lawyers.
No, they do not care who is on the phone. They do not care about the DA. They don't care if you're a celebrity.
Digital files have their own memory.
And what the digital evidence reveals here is where this story completely stops being a courtroom drama and becomes a full-blown thriller.
Yeah, because we are now going to transition to what the file itself has to say.
And this is where the floor completely drops out.
Because every single digital file carries a hidden birth certificate. It's automatically stamped into it the moment it's created, recording exactly what software made it and on what specific date.
Think of it like a digital fingerprint. It's permanently burned into the code, and it cannot be faked or altered without leaving a highly visible, permanent trace.
Exactly. The person looking at the screen never sees it, but the computer always knows it is there. It is the document's hidden, infallible memory.
And the birth certificate inside the specific file, the one named 4-27-18 email.piodft.
The very document Kevin Hart just authenticated on that call.
Right. That hidden birth certificate shows two completely impossible things.
Okay, I know it is coming, and it still stuns me every time I hear it.
It's crazy.
What does the digital fingerprint actually say?
First, it tells us the exact program that created the document. It was created in Microsoft Word 2013.
Wait, I have to stop you. Microsoft Word.
Microsoft Word 2013.
The word processing software.
Yes. And second, the digital fingerprint tells us the exact date it was birthed into existence.
Okay.
It was created on May 17th, 2019.
Wait, let's do the math on this. Let's just sit with the devastating, crushing irony of those dates for a second.
Let's do it.
May 17th, 2019. That is exactly 5 days before Kevin Hart sat on that recorded phone line and said, factual information.
5 days before.
5 days.
6 days.
And it gets worse, because May 17th, 2019 is exactly 1 year and 20 days after the date printed on the face of the document itself.
Right. The text on the page says April 27th, 2018.
But the digital fingerprint proves it was actually birthed into existence a year and 20 days later.
And we really have to focus on what it was birthed in.
Yeah, the program.
It was not birthed in an email server. It was not birthed in a mail program like Outlook or Gmail.
No.
It was not birthed by anything that sends or receives electronic messages across the internet.
It was made in Microsoft Word. I mean, claiming a Microsoft Word document is a forwarded email is exactly like typing out a letter on a mechanical typewriter, taking a picture of it, and trying to pass it off as an iPhone text message.
That's a perfect analogy.
It is fundamentally, structurally, completely the wrong medium. Microsoft Word is for writing cover letters.
It's for writing term papers.
It is not an email client. That is all. We can just move on from that because it's so absurd.
But it's true. It is a word processing document created 5 days before the phone call, masquerading as an email from a year prior.
We could almost stop the entire deep dive right here.
Seriously. The sheer weight of that single fact is enough to completely collapse the prosecution's narrative.
It isn't just a smoking gun. It is the gun telling you exactly when it was manufactured, who manufactured it, and loudly declaring that it isn't even a gun. It's a stapler.
It's a stapler.
The timing is what I cannot get over. 5 days.
5 days.
Someone literally sat down at a computer keyboard, opened up Microsoft Word 2013, typed out a document, saved it as a PDF, and a mere 5 days later, a virtual room full of high-powered defense attorneys and specialized prosecutors are on a conference line.
Letting a celebrity swear under penalty of perjury that it is a real forwarded email.
Which naturally brings us to the next massive hurdle.
Right, because when you are looking at evidence this corrupted, you have to ask, how do we know this for absolutely certain?
How do we know we can trust this digital fingerprint?
Exactly, because in a case with this much spin, with this much high-level legal maneuvering, you cannot just take anyone's word for it.
No, you need an anchor. You need an arbiter whose entire reputation is built on calling it straight.
If I am looking at this glaring mismatch between the human testimony and the digital file, I cannot just take the defense attorney's word for it.
And you certainly can't trust the prosecution.
Right. They needed an independent forensic examiner to crack the file open.
So who actually dug into the code of this thing?
This is where we introduce Michael Bandemer.
Okay, so what are his credentials? Why should you or I trust his analysis of the file?
So Michael Bandemer is a digital forensic expert. He has more than 20 years of hard experience doing exactly one thing.
Which is?
Examining digital documents to determine whether they are what they claim to be.
Okay, so he's the furthest thing from a novice.
Oh, absolutely. He has led more than 1,000 investigations in his career.
1,000 investigations?
1,000.
That is a lifetime of looking at corrupted data.
It is. And most importantly, for our purposes, the courts trust him.
Meaning what exactly?
He is frequently appointed as a neutral examiner. And that is a very specific legal status. That means both sides, the prosecution trying to get a conviction and the defense trying to get an acquittal, both sides Trust him to look at the raw digital evidence and just tell the objective truth about what it is.
He has no dog in the fight.
Right. His only allegiance is to the data on the hard drive.
So this highly respected neutral examiner takes a look at the El Jefe email.
He takes the very document that caused J.T. Jackson's arrest.
The very document Kevin Hart called factual on a recorded line.
Yep.
So what does Bandemer actually find when he opens it up?
He found 5 glaring, catastrophic problems with this document. 5 massive red flags that make it scientifically impossible for this file to be what Kevin Hart swore it was.
Wow. Let's walk through these 5 problems because from what I understand, every single one of these is a death blow to the prosecution's case.
They really are. So, problem 1. Bandemer found that it was not an original email at all.
Like we said, it's a PDF.
Right. It was simply a standard PDF document file.
Yep.
It possessed absolutely none of the properties, none of the underlying digital architecture that a real email inherently possesses.
So right off the bat, before we even get into dates or travel history, structurally, it is a fake.
Completely.
It is a piece of digital paper trying to wear the clothes of a digital message.
Exactly. Which brings us to problem 2. There was 0 documented record of how the file traveled.
Okay, explain that.
Think about the narrative they built on that phone call, right? Hart supposedly received the email, then he forwarded it to his attorneys, who then provided it to the district attorney's office.
Right, that was the story Blair Burke handed him.
Exactly. If that actually happened, there should be a clear chain of digital custody.
Sure.
But Bandemer found absolutely no documented travel history for this file. It simply appears out of the ether.
It's as if it was dropped out of thin air directly onto a hard drive rather than passing through multiple people's hands.
Which leads directly to problem 3. Bandemer found absolutely no forwarding signs whatsoever.
Wow.
This completely and utterly contradicts the narrative Blair Burke fed to Kevin Hart.
And the narrative Hart so enthusiastically adopted.
Right. Remember, Hart said, "Oh, forwarded." Yes, there you go.
But the file itself shows no sign of ever being forwarded.
Nothing. The original sender address, the forwarding path, the new recipient information.
All the stuff that gets automatically generated by a computer when you hit forward on an email.
None of it is there.
Well, yeah, because you cannot forward a Microsoft Word document like an email and expect it to magically grow email headers.
Right.
It just doesn't work that way. The physical laws of the software prohibit it.
Precisely. And that brings us to problem 4. No routing trail.
Okay, a routing trail.
Every authentic email contains invisible tracking data in its header. This logs every individual server it bounced through to reach its destination.
Oh, like functioning exactly like the physical routing stamps a post office aggressively flaps onto a package at every sorting facility it passes through.
That's a great way to put it. Bandemer specifically looked for those routing stamps.
Yeah.
This file had absolutely no routing trail at all. None.
So it never traveled across the internet as an email.
It never bounced from server to server.
So let's recap the disaster so far.
Let's do it.
It is a PIDFF, not an email.
Right.
It has no travel history.
No.
It has no forwarding signs, utterly destroying the star witness's sworn testimony.
Yep.
And it has no routing stamps, proving it never crossed the internet.
Exactly.
Any one of those 4 anomalies is a disaster for a prosecutor. But then we hit problem 5.
Problem 5 is the ultimate death blow. It is the birth certificate we already discussed.
The May 17th date.
Yes. The internal metadata explicitly and undeniably states the file was created in Microsoft Word 2013 on May 17th, 2019.
This is the problem I simply cannot let go of.
It's the smoking gun.
This isn't just a matter of the file being altered or like accidentally corrupted.
Yeah.
It isn't like someone took a real valid email and accidentally saved it wrong or stripped out some data to make it easier to print.
Right. Its origin is fundamentally impossible based on the story they all agreed to on that phone call.
It is a chronological impossibility. Time only moves in one direction.
Exactly.
You cannot have an email from April 27, 2018 that was birthed in a word processor on May 17, 2019.
It is a total fabrication.
The file wasn't just altered, it was entirely manufactured.
Manufactured just 5 days before it was needed on a high-stakes phone call.
It is breathtaking. A neutral expert, a man who has done 1,000 investigations, looks at this file and instantly spots 5 massive, insurmountable problems.
Instantly.
The architecture is wrong. The travel history is missing. The forwarding data is missing. The routing trail is missing. And the creation date proves it was typed up just days before the authentication call.
It really makes you wonder how anyone, let alone law enforcement, could look at this and think it was real.
Which naturally raises the single most disturbing question of this entire deep dive.
I know exactly where you're going.
If Michael Vandenberg could spot 5 massive problems this easily,
Right.
if he could look at the digital fingerprint and instantly see it was a Word document masquerading as an email,
Yeah.
how on earth did the authorities miss it?
And this is where we have to talk about the cybercrime division.
Oh, man. This is the part of the story where the floor doesn't just drop out, it completely disintegrates.
It really does.
Tell me about the cybercrime division.
Okay, we need to deeply understand what the cybercrime division of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office actually is.
Right.
This is not like a beat cop squinting at a confusing computer screen.
No.
This is not a rural sheriff who doesn't understand technology.
This is a highly specialized, heavily funded unit in one of the largest legal jurisdictions in the world.
Exactly.
And what does a specialized unit like that actually do on a day-to-day basis? What is their reason for existing?
Their entire purpose, the very reason this specific unit is staffed and funded within the justice system, is to evaluate exactly this kind of digital evidence.
Wow.
Their explicit job is to look at a digital file, analyze its underlying properties, check for metadata, and determine whether it is real or fake.
To determine if it is what a witness claims it is?
That is the fundamental mandate of the unit.
So they are the experts.
They are.
They are the ones who are supposed to know all about hidden birth certificates and routing trails and Microsoft Word metadata.
They are the shield. They are the safety net designed by the justice system to catch digital fabrications before they can poison a legal proceeding.
Okay, so.
Now, I want you to think back to that phone call on May 22nd, 2019.
The call where Hart kept saying factual, factual, factual.
Yes. Who was on that call representing the authorities?
Michael Fern, the prosecuting attorney, and Robin Letourneau, the lead investigator.
Right. Who was representing the machinery of the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office.
Fern and Letourneau.
Both Michael Fern and Robin Letourneau were active members of the cybercrime division.
The sheer irony of that fact is paralyzing.
Both of them were in that specialized unit. Both of them were on that recorded line.
Unbelievable.
Both of them sat there and listened to Kevin Hart say factual information about a document that their own specialized training should have immediately, instinctively identified as a blatant forgery.
It wasn't just a bad file slipping past a busy, overworked prosecutor who doesn't understand how computers work. The very people whose literal job description is to catch fake digital evidence were the ones holding the fake digital evidence.
They held it. They brought it to the call.
They used it to prompt the witness.
They let the star witness authenticate it on the record.
I need you to read Michael Vandenberg's professional assessment of this situation. I know you have the exact quote from his forensic report.
I do.
What did the 20-year veteran, the neutral examiner, say about the cybercrime division holding this utterly fabricated file?
Vandenberg wrote this in his final assessment. Quote, "Given that both the prosecuting attorney and the investigator were working within the cybercrime division, and the document presented clear signs it was not what it claimed to be, it should have been readily apparent this file was highly suspicious and should not have been relied upon."
Read that last part again, slowly.
Okay.
Let the weight of it breathe for a second.
It should have been readily apparent this file was highly suspicious and should not have been relied upon.
Readily apparent to the cybercrime division.
Readily apparent.
We just have to sit in the silence of that fact for a moment.
Yeah.
The specialized unit, built by the county to catch exactly this kind of forgery, held this fabricated file in their own hands.
In their own files.
They looked at a PDF that was born in Microsoft Word 5 days earlier, a file that had no routing data, no forwarding data, no email properties whatsoever.
And they took it onto a conference call to have a comedian swear under oath that it was a real email from a year ago. It is the ultimate devastating irony of the justice system. The safeguard became the facilitator.
The filter became the funnel.
Exactly.
So how does this happen? How does a specialized unit fail so spectacularly?
It's hard to fathom.
I mean, when you are in the cybercrime division and a file lands on your desk that says it was created 5 days ago in Word, you don't need to be a 20-year veteran like Vandenberg to see the problem.
No, you don't.
You just have to right-click on the file and check the properties.
Yeah.
Anyone with a basic computer can do it. Why didn't they?
It really suggests a terrifying reality about confirmation bias operating within the justice system.
How so?
Well, when a document perfectly fits the narrative you are desperately trying to build, maybe you stop looking at the birth certificate.
Wow.
Maybe you don't check for the routing stamps because you are afraid of what you might find.
You just get your star witness on the line, you get the high-priced lawyer to feed him the verb he needs, and you check the box.
You get him to say factual 3 times, you declare victory, and you close the file. You prioritize the cooperative human testimony over the immutable digital reality.
But the digital file never closes.
No, it doesn't.
It never forgets. It just waits in the dark for someone like Banber to finally come along and look at the code.
Let's bring all these threads together.
Let's close the circle on this deep dive, because the timeline is the single most damning part of this entire story.
It all comes down to 3 vital dates.
Lay them out for the listener.
Date number 1, April 27th, 2018.
That is the date printed on the physical face of the document.
Right. The date it supposedly existed in the real world as a vicious extortion demand.
The date the prosecution's narrative requires it to be true.
Date number 2, May 17th, 2019.
That is the date the digital fingerprint proves the file was actually made, birthed into existence in a word processor.
1 year and 20 days after it supposedly arrived in an inbox.
The date the digital fabrication was undeniably manufactured.
And date number 3, May 22nd, 2019. Exactly 5 days after it was manufactured.
That is the date Kevin Hart got on a recorded line with the Cybercrime Division and emphatically called it factual.
Those 3 dates tell the entire story of the El Jefe email.
But there is a massive reality check we have to interject here.
Right.
Because we have spent a lot of time talking about metadata and phone calls and lawyers and digital forensic reports.
Yeah.
But what did this piece of paper actually do? What was its dark function in the real world?
This was the El Jefe email. This was the exact document that the investigator, Robin Letourneau, used. It was the catalyst. It was the entire reason J.T. Jackson was put in handcuffs on April 30th, 2018.
A man's freedom was stripped away.
Stripped away.
A.T. Jackson was arrested, booked, and thrown into the nightmare of the criminal justice system based on a document that we now know that the internal code scientifically proves did not even exist when they claimed it did.
It didn't exist when he was arrested.
It wasn't created until over a year later.
And here is the final brutal twist of the knife regarding this document.
What's that?
Despite being the catalyst for his arrest, despite being formally authenticated on a recorded line by the star witness, despite the Cybercrime Division holding it in their files, this document, the file named 4-27-18email.apedf, was never once shown to a judge as formal evidence in any court proceeding in this case.
Wait. They never actually entered it into evidence?
You never entered it?
I see exactly what happened.
Yep.
Because if they formally entered it, the defense would get the legal right to analyze it.
Exactly.
If they entered it, a neutral examiner like Bandemer would get to look at the birth certificate on the official record.
And the whole house of cards would collapse in open court.
So they used it to arrest him. They got the celebrity star to bless it behind closed doors on a phone call, and then they deliberately kept it out of the courtroom.
They kept it in the shadows, but the damage was already done.
The arrest had already happened.
The media narrative was already set in stone.
It is just staggering to comprehend. A man lost years of his life fighting criminal charges, fighting to clear his reputation, fighting for his basic freedom, and the absolute foundation of it all was a Microsoft Word document typed up just 5 days before a phone call.
Hart said factual on a recorded call on May 22, 2019. The document he was authenticating was created in Microsoft Word on May 17, 2019. 5 days earlier, 1 year and 20 days after the date printed on it. The unit whose entire job is catching exactly this had it in their files. And the man it was used to arrest spent 3.5 years fighting criminal charges.
That is the floor completely dropping out from under the truth.
It leaves you with a very chilling final thought to mull over. When the specialized system designed to protect the truth holds a glaring fabrication in their own hands and still points the finger at man, what does that say about the safety of anyone else when digital evidence enters the chat?
Next time on the Oki Doke, September 23, 2019, J.T. Jackson's attorney puts the investigator on a witness stand. Under questioning, she says something now in the official court transcript. The entire extortion case against J.T. Jackson was built on one thing, Episode 6.
New episodes of the Oki Doke Season 1 drop every week. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. If this episode stopped, you share it. Someone needs to hear this.